We go all the way the south of the United States. Again, we go to Florida, or to be more precise, to Tampa Bay. There is my good friend, Ross Tarr, the one who is responsible for all the hairs on my chin. Because one day I will have a bigger beard than that man, but that day did not come yet. Can I have your attention for Ross Tarr?
Hello, hello, hello. You know, I'm not so sure you don't have a bigger beard than I, uh, Marin, but it just hasn't turned white yet. And Caroline, you've touched on one of the saints that I've always found fascinating. Uh, uh, Canera, was one of the. I'll just expand on that a little bit since Marin hasn't heard that story before. She was one of the only surviving virgin of the 11,000 martyred at Cologne, and she was taken back by the king as a prisoner, actually, for that. And the fact that she was strangled uh, with the scarf is the reason why the scarf is her symbol. She's quite a fascinating character within the stories of the church. Very, very interesting one. But in any case, I had digressed. Stories of food. And when Jim was talking about potatoes, it made me think of the story of how the Seminoles, the Native Americans, latter day Native Americans of early Florida, came to receive their basic food, which is corn. Now, when people think of the Seminoles, they usually think of these brightly colored outfits with the bright colors and stripes and living on boats, and they're living in the swamp, which they do. It's where they were driven. But what we don't realize is, of course, that they didn't really get into the colorful clothing until the late 1800s. Before that, they were always dressed in deerskin, uh, and in much like other Native Americans. But the colorful clothing came with American traders, mostly after the Second Seminole War. But the way the Seminole received food, and this is a story that emphasizes the juxtaposition of modern thought and stories with Native American stories in a way that happens, and we don't stop to think about it, but it does happen when myths become intertwined and stories of origin begin to intertwine and are passed by oral tradition from generation to generation. But if we go back in time with the Seminoles, who were actually Creeks from Georgia and Alabama, who wandered down into Florida, joined by escaped slaves over the years, and became known as the Seminole Nation. And Seminole itself means lost people, because they were, in fact, Creeks lost from their nation. But the way they received that corn was that long, long ago, there were a tribe of cornwomen who lived deep, deep in the glades. The cornwomen were tall and exceedingly fat. And they would, when they danced, their legs would scrape together, and kernels of corn would fall from their legs, and corn grew everywhere. And one corn woman saw a 4-month-old Seminole boy, and she wanted a son. And so she took that 4-year-old boy and she brought him to the home of the cornwomen. And there he grew up, learning all of the wisdom of the cornwomen, all of the knowledge of the plants, the animals, the fish, the agriculture of the glades, how to grow everything. And when he was old enough to want a woman of his own, cornwoman sent him back to his tribe with 4 kernels of corn. And there he planted and showed his tribe how to culture corn. And from that corn grew mighty, huge stalks. And it multiplied rapidly, and there was food for everyone. No one was now just dependent upon the fish and the gators and the problems of trying to hunt in the swamp. And at that same time as plenty came to the Seminole, a man came from the east. That man's name was Jesus. And Jesus stood on a huge shell mound, and he taught the Seminole of peace and love. And from one pocket, he took feathers of a turkey. And with that, he taught them how to hunt the turkey. So that with corn and with turkey from the swamps of the glades, the wild turkeys, the Seminoles were never short of food. And they had learned of love. And that is how the Seminoles have always had food.